Welcome back to Free Tendies Fantasy. This is the Week 4 gambling episode, and we're here to give out winners. Yanni's here. What's going on, man?
What's up, dude?
All right. So we'll start with our Week 3 recap. I'll go first. The Patriots minus 2.5. Never a doubt on that one. The Jets are really bad at football. I still don't think the Patriots are good. It was kind of close. I think the Jets had a chance at a Hail Mary at the end of the game, but Zach Wilson blows. So Patriots were able to cover there. 2.5 points was small enough to get me to bite. Saints money line. Okay, this one deserves a conversation. Obviously, the Saints were up 17-0 at the end of the third quarter. I think, or midway through the third quarter when Derek Carr went down with an injury. I think it would be very, very easy for me to say I was on the right side, Derek Carr got hurt, and that's why the Saints lost. But I'm not going to do that. I think that the Saints lost because of Dennis Allen's tight ass play calling. Dennis Allen is a defensive coach, and he knows he has a good defense, and he is traditionally called games in such a way so as to not lose. So they were very, very conservative when Jameis came in. I believe they had 3 or 4 straight 4 to 5 play drives and punted the ball. They allowed Jordan Love to drive the field. You give anybody in the NFL enough chances, they're going to finally have success against your team. And then in the last 2 minutes of the game, when the Saints were down by 1 point and forced to, they actually drove the ball down the field into field goal range. The Saints kicker missed the kick. So they ended up losing, and I lost the money line bet. But really, I put that more on Dennis Allen's play calling and coaching philosophy versus Derek Carr going down. So I'll just take my L with grace. And the other thing I should say about this game, this was a game the Saints were 1.5 point dogs, and I took the Saints money line because I said the way football goes, right? You're counting by 3s and 6s and 7s, and most of the time the game won't come down to the point. I'll give away the point to get more money, right? So I got the game at 2-1. The Saints lost by exactly 1. The exact outcome I bet against happened, and I don't know. Am I going to learn from this? Am I going to change the way I gamble? Absolutely not. No. That's a bad beat. That sucks. But you have this one situation happen versus 20 other times you bet the money line and it isn't a 1 point game. I don't value that point. I don't care. I just think the Saints was already a sketchy side, and Dennis Allen cost me, not Derek Carr in betting the money line. Anyways, enough about them, and I'll have more about them in a minute. But the Steelers money line, I will save that for Yanni because that was a head-to-head for us. The Ravens minus 8.5. That was a dog shit pick. It was a rainy game, which I did a good job of calling out Yanni's rainy games that he had on his card, but I failed to recognize the Ravens would be playing in a rainy game. And quite frankly, the Colts they've been frisky all year. I think I probably overvalued the Ravens coming into this, and Shane Steichen could coach. Even with Gardner Minshew, they went out and got it done. Not only did they not cover 8, not only did the Ravens not cover 8.5, but they outright lost to the Colts. So you know what? Tip your hat to the Colts. They played well. They took advantage of tons of mistakes by Lamar and the Ravens and their banged up secondary. And Zach Moss also basically made me look like a big dumb stooge. I said he's bad at football. I said he's not going to have success running against this Ravens team. And sure enough, sure as shit, he goes over 100 yards. So, man, it seems like, at least so far this season, I've had one game every single week that is just so laughably bad, a laughably bad pick, and I'm gonna get better. I actually take these to heart, and bad pick, my bad. I'll take a lap on it. And finally, the Eagles minus 4.5. There's never really a doubt in that one. We've been trying to tell you all season, Baker is still Baker. He's still Baker. He had the luxury of going up against the Vikings and the Bears in the first 2 weeks of the season, and he had to face a real defense week 3. And not only are the Eagles a real defense, but they also have a banged-up secondary. So he could have taken advantage of some long throws or whatever, but he just couldn't get it done. The game was never really in question, and yeah, it was just the right side. I'm happy I picked it.
Yeah, for mine, you hit the Patriots. For the Bills, I mean, a 34-point win speaks for itself. There's not really a whole lot to say about that. Okay, Falcons. Basically, I just got it wrong. The Lions are a really good football team. I thought the Falcons defense would do a little bit more to contain them, both in terms of the rush and the pass, but they got blown out. That was just a bad pick. Raiders, that was our head-to-head. Full credit to Teddy. Saw the game better than I did. I don't know what it was that I thought would happen. I thought like maybe Jimmy would move the ball a little more efficiently. I thought Jimmy would settle into the system a little better. His quote about the McDaniel system is that this is the system I grew up in. This is the system I learned in the NFL. This is my thing. And I sort of thought maybe there were two games that were a little down and they'd really roll this week. I guess they were in the sense that Devontae got going, but Josh Jacobs not rushing the ball at all killed him. Ted had a better read on the game. The Steelers are a better team. That was a silly bet. And then somehow I hit my third push, making 20% of my bets so far this season pushes, which was the Rams. The Rams at +3 against the Bengals. Joe Burrow playing obviously swung that quite a bit. I did not think they would roll him out there on the bad calf. That was a big part of my prognostication on that game. But I still think I had if it was a push and I was betting on no Joe Burrow, I don't really think my process was the issue there. I just think Joe came out. They fed 20 targets to Jamar Chase. Not a whole lot to say about it.
Yeah, you did get a backdoor cover, or not cover. You got a backdoor push on that one. It was Bengals big all day, and then the Rams finally had success the last drive. So I mean, again, that's why you take those numbers. 3 is a key number, and because you took that key number, you didn't lose the bet. So,
yep.
So on the season, Yanni has a half a game better record than me because of his push. But your boy Ted is in the green, and Yanni is in the red. So who's really winning? That's up to the fans to decide. Go in the comments and let us know what's more important, the season record or the theoretical profit or loss that we're not actually betting on. But anyways, without further ado, let's reveal the Week 4 picks. All right, so I'll start it out. This week I got the Jaguars -3, the Vikings -4.5, the Bucks and Saints under 39.5, our first total bet of the year. The Bills -3 and the Seahawks -1.5, and I'm parlaying the Bills and Seahawks together. If the parlay hits, that returns $372.73. The other games, the single bets, could return $573.16. And if I have a 5-0 week, it's a potential return of $945.89. The ticket cost is $400 because, again, I am spending $100 on the 2-game parlay. Yeah.
For me, I have the Vikings at -4.5, Eagles at -8.5, Bengals at -2.5, Chargers at -4.5, Chiefs at -8.5. Taking a couple of the big favorites. No parlay for me this week. Total ticket cost at $500, a return of $962.31. Trying to get back in that green. Betting against quarterbacks this week, but we'll get into that.
And before we go into our game breakdown, let me just say, there is not a single underdog on this board at all. We are not here to be cute and tell you the wrong side and then explain why it was right later. We're here to pick winners. My goal for this season is to be over 500 and to be in the green. As long as I do that, I'm doing good. So I'm not picking the Jets +8.5 this week. But anyways, let's get into the games. The first one is the Falcons at Jaguars in London. I'm jagging off, taking the Jags, laying the 3 points. The over-under is 43.5. 61% of the money is on the Jags, and 43% of the bets are on the Jags. So with that 61-43 split, I'm with the Sharps here. I am swimming with the whale money. I'm not surprised. I am a Sharp. Chad Millman, you suck. The Jags look terrible so far, and they could easily be 0-3. They could easily be 0-3. I think they got away with one against the Colts. And the Falcons are like a surprising team. I put that in quotes because I think a lot of other people are surprised by them. But this is a team that me and Yanni liked a lot coming into the season. So I'm not super shocked by 2-1 for them. So it just feels like the momentum is against Jacksonville here, even though they both came off pretty bad losses. Trevor Lawrence, the prince that was promised, so far this season he's looked shaky. It has not been great for him. And this could be a potential rebound for him. I'm not sure. I am of the mindset that he hasn't really proven himself yet. A lot of people coming into this year were already kind of viewing him as like an elite option, an elite quarterback, I still had to see more from him because there were just certain games that he had, like the wild card matchup against the Chargers last year in the playoffs is a good example. I believe he threw 5 interceptions in the first half. Like, he's still a young guy and he's still learning. I think he's not a finished product yet. So I think this could be a good rebound spot for him against a team with the Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder problem. The Falcons, the way I like to look at the Falcons is they are the skill positions on the Falcons are like a nice Lamborghini that's sitting in your driveway with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson. All of the tools are there for this team to be successful. But Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder are the 12-year-old you threw the Lamborghini keys to and are expecting them to be able to orchestrate and drive this offense. Desmond Ridder, in my mind, is the yikes emoji as a NFL quarterback. He is not an NFL quarterback, and Arthur Smith is just so dead set on this service academy level football attack where all he wants to do is run the ball 50 times a game that I really think it is hurting their team. And against a team like the Jaguars, who has plenty of offensive weapons in Travis Etienne, in Calvin Ridley, in Trevor Lawrence, in a solid defense, I could see this being a type of game where the Jags get up early. And if the Jags can get to a 1-2 score lead on the Falcons, it's going to be hard for them to come back quickly. This ground and pound sort of offense, it doesn't work well in a negative game script. Like, if you ask Desmond Ridder to drop back 30 to 40 times in a game to pass, you're going to be in trouble. So that's pretty much why I'm on the Jags here. Also important to note that since this game is in London, like, there isn't a true home field advantage here for the Jaguars, but they play in London every year. They've done this. They do this every year. They've done it a lot. So I'm giving them like a slight edge with just being more familiar with the flying overseas and the travel schedule and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's why I'm on the Jags. 3 is a good number. If they only win by a field goal, I can get a push like Yanni and match his pushes at 3. Yanni, do you have anything on this game? Do you think I'm right, wrong, big dumb stooge, a genius?
I just don't like betting on it because of the flight to London, because it's a 6:30 game. It's just weird. So I just think it's weird, like weird stuff could happen. And -3 is never a great, you don't feel great about that number very often. But no, that's a fine bet. I also think we're just waiting on Taylor Heineke to take over on the Falcons. That's when you'll see their team take off a little bit.
I think the Falcons should do that as soon as possible.
I would have done that yesterday. Yeah, I think it will happen. I mean, been kind of speculatively looking at Drake London trades if he's like free, because I just figure if he gets in there with Heineke, he might do pretty well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, yeah.
Yep, jagging off at 6:30 in the morning, bro. Like, I'm gonna have a reason to get up and like stream this 6:30 a.m. Football game. Yep. And quite frankly, the only time I ever wake up at 6:30 is to go fishing. So this is a big deal for me. Okay.
Yep. All right, Vikings, Panthers. There's kind of a theme that I'm developing this is my first year where I've been doing real research and really combing through games and trying to decide how I feel about things. And one of the things that I've really come to the conclusion of is I think you really need to be carefully weighing quarterbacks when you're making these types of decisions. Very often it's going to come down to the punch-counterpunch between two offenses, and we know that disproportionately is a discussion about head coaches and quarterbacks. So sticking with that theme for this game, I'm taking the Vikings -4.5 over the Panthers. I think the Vikings offense, even though they've lost to some pretty good teams, or they've lost like pretty close games. Like, it's not like they've come out there and flopped or anything. They lost a shootout to Justin Herbert. They lost a shootout to Jalen Hurts. They lost a pretty tight, pretty well played game to Tampa Bay. Nothing about those games makes me feel like this is a team that's floundering, or like what we usually think of when we think of an 0-3 team. I think a lot of those one possession games that bounced their way last year just kind of aren't bouncing their way this year. They had a lot of like luck that kind of factored into their record. They're not really getting good breaks this year. That fumble out of the back of the end zone with Justin Jefferson's a really good example of that. So 90% of the money is on the Vikings, and 75% of the total bets are on the Vikings. This is a game that both me and Ted are consensus betting. And it's really just about the Panthers look awful. Miles Sanders, who's absorbed, I think he has 20% of their target share so far this year. He came up with an injury on a Friday. That's never a good thing. So who knows about his status? Bryce Young is coming off an ankle injury. They are determined to get him in there and to get him getting reps, which is the right thing to do when you invest that much in the kid. I just don't think he's ready for the NFL at the moment. So I do not foresee them being able to go blow for blow with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson and Addison, and even Madison looked pretty good last week. Just all these weapons that the Vikings have. Yeah, 0-3 in one-score games this year. They were 11-0 last year. That's kind of the point I was making. And again, so you're looking at the talent here, right? And if you're going to take advantage of the Vikings, you're doing so through the air. And I simply don't think Bryce Young's equipped to do that. I think we're going to see it this week. I'm very comfortable with this bet.
Yeah, me too. Especially with the way the Vikings play defense. Brian Flores sends the house all the time. And with a young guy like Bryce Young, who has 2 NFL games under his belt, I mean, he could just be blitz reading master and get the ball out of his hands super quick like Tua, and he could make the Vikings pay, but I don't see it. And with Miles Sanders being banged up, like, I don't know. Like, unless Adam Thielen has the biggest revenge game of all time, I'll take the Vikings here. You got to plug your nose with this one, especially because, like, for me, the Vikings and the Chargers are the 2 teams that have way, way more talent, like, at least on the offensive side of the ball, than, like, their record would suggest, right? Like, Kirk Cousins has been great this year. Justin Jefferson has been great this year. But they just have found ways to lose games. I think that even if they try, the Panthers won't allow them to get back in this game.
Okay, another one of mine. Commanders at Eagles. I have the Eagles at 8.5 points in this game. 91%. Again, these are big whale bets. I don't actually. I try to abstain from checking where the big money's going because I think that influences my thought process too much. But when I go and give Ted my picks and we do our little background on it and I see that the big money's on my side of the bet, that always makes me feel better. Obviously, these guys are serious better. If you're plopping down 10, 20, $100,000 on a Sunday game, you're a pretty serious better. And 91% of the money and 83% of the total bets are on the Eagles. So that's always comforting to me to kind of know that at least I had my head on straight when I was making that pick. The Commanders are they gave up 35 and 37 points their last 2 games respectively. Just getting ripped to pieces by elite, and not even by elite. There was one of them was by the Broncos, but getting ripped to pieces by Josh Allen last week. And primarily, it seems like this Commanders team, confoundingly enough, because they have Eric Bieniemy as their offensive coordinator, but it does seem like their primary method of attack this year is through the rush game because Sam Howell's been so bad. Well, the Eagles are fantastic against the rush. They absolutely eat people alive against the rush. Jalen Carter's one of the highest graded defenders in the sport right now. One of the highest graded, I believe, overall players by PFF, but also particularly against the run. He is just destroying the interior of O-lines. I think it's just a terrible matchup. I think it's a terrible matchup against an elite team. I was surprised to see Chad Millman call them out this week on Colin's show. I don't get it. But that makes me feel so much better about this pick too. I'm very comfortably on the Eagles for this game.
Yeah, couple things. I'd just like to clear the record for Chad Millman. It is actually his friend Simon Hunter who likes the Commanders.
Oh,
Simon Hunter is linked in with communities of sharps, and allegedly the communities of sharps are buying Sam Howell and the Commanders. I am not. I think Sam Howell stinks, and I think Eric Bieniemy stinks. He's not a head coach. I don't know. Like, Sam Howell sucks. His great wide receivers are being hung out to dry by this offensive game plan. Eric Bieniemy seems committed to, like, spreading the ball around evenly. Like, why is Logan Thomas getting 7 targets and Jahan Dotson's getting 5 targets on your team? Like, that just seems like bad coaching to me and bad game plan. And yeah, everyone's favorite player, Brian Robinson. He's a great story. He came back from being shot. We all feel very good for him that he is such a great football player. But Mystic Ted is calling under 10 fantasy points this game for him. He's gonna have a rough one.
More than likely, yeah.
If you had, say, a roster with Brian Robinson and Bijan, and you thought you had 2 top 5 options, I think that it could be a rough week for you. I don't know.
Could be.
Unless
you blew 61% of your fab on Jerome Ford.
All right. Oh, Jerome Ford week? Is it going to be a Jerome Ford week?
I do actually. I think Jerome Ford's going to be great this week. I really do. I think he'll rip up the Ravens. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Zach Moss just did. So why not, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Next one's mine. And it is our first point total bet of the season. I'm taking the under in the Bucks and Saints game. 89% of the money is on the under of 39.5, and 90% of the bets are on the under of 39.5. So everyone and their mother is on the under here. We have Dennis Allen and his I hate offense coaching style versus Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles. Man, this is like we're going to see a lot of this in the NFC South this year, I think. It is four teams that have just not great offenses. I think the only offensive-minded head coach is probably Frank Reich, who, I mean, I don't know. I don't like him. I guess you could call Artie Smith offensive mind, but he only is offensive mind for one type of play.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he's technically an offensive, not a great one, but he technically is.
Yeah. Here's the deal. Derek Carr has a sprained AC joint. He's questionable for the game. Earlier in the week, it was looking like absolutely he would not play. But now it's almost trending like he might. Even if he does, I don't think it matters. The Saints have the offensive weapons. Michael Thomas is finally able to be healthy and make an impact on the field. Chris Olave is breaking out, and they're finally getting back Alvin Kamara this week. But I don't think it matters. Like, even with all of those weapons, the Saints over the year, they put up tons of yards against every single team they played. They put up a ton of yards against the Titans and only scored like 12 points or something, or maybe it was 17. The Saints only put up 20 against the Panthers in another game where they dominated the yardage battle but just didn't get it in the end zone. Last week against the Packers, like I said earlier, they got up to a 17-0 lead. One of those touchdowns was a defensive touchdown. Then Derek Carr went down and Dennis Allen put up his little turtle shell. Man, like especially if Jameis goes in this game, I see Dennis Allen keeping him on a very, very short leash, like doing maybe run, pass, like for the first 5 drives of the game, or maybe run even is like his play calls. Man, it's just Dennis Allen has such a terrible record as a head coach, and he just is so like defensive minded, which I mean, when you have a good defense like the Saints do, like I get it, but at the same time, like you have to play offense in this game too. You can't just be content sitting on a 17-0 lead. So Saints, please fire Dennis Allen. You can do better than him. He actually has like one of the worst winning percentages of any coach in NFL history, which is I think hilarious. I don't know how he's still in the league. But anyways, I'm going to stop harping on him for a little bit and go to Todd Bowles, who hates offense too. And the Saints haven't allowed more than 20 points in their last 11 regular season games. This is a legit defense that Baker's going up against this week, and like we had been saying all year, and like we saw on Monday, Baker has not magically become a good quarterback. He is a mid to low tier quarterback that has some good offensive weapons on his team, but he has a tough time orchestrating the offense against better competition that aren't the Vikings or the Bears. And I don't see them breaking the Saints streak here of scoring 20. So, I mean, if you see the Bucks being under 20 and you see the Saints maybe getting 14-17, the number's just there. So that's why I'm in. Gun to my head, I think the Saints would probably win this game if I had to pick a side. But they're giving up 3.5 points in a super. I just think this is so under that like the spread wasn't as enticing to me as the under here. So I figured why not? Let's go for it. Shout out to the boy Adrian. He sent me his spreadsheet yesterday while he was at Lambeau Field, showing how plus money betting unders is. So I figured why not? You got any thoughts on this one, Yanni? Are you excited to watch this matchup? I'm probably going to watch the whole game, and I'm just going to hate it the entire time, I think. Just be so frustrated.
I would not watch this game, no. I think it's going to be a grindy, pretty boring game. I maybe get a Marshawn Latimer, Mike Evans fight. Might be kind of interesting, but that's it.
I would love to see Jameis, like, just air it out. Like, I would love Dennis Allen to just break out of his shell and say, you know what, Jameis, go for it. You have Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, let it eat. I don't think he'll do it.
In daily fantasy, I'm looking to get Olave in lineups because of how effective he is on the deep ball and because it's Jameis. See if he'll bomb it to him a few times.
I would fade Olave this week. I have Olave on 2 of 3 rosters right now, and I don't have another option to put in for him, so I'm still rolling him out there. But I view him as a wide receiver too this week, just from the Jameis game plan. But we'll see.
We'll find out. We'll find out. Okay, back to the well of betting against the Titans. I did get torched on this earlier this year, betting on the Chargers over the Titans, but I am taking the Bengals at minus 2.5 in the game. 63% of the money's on the Bengals, 64% of the bets. And it really just comes down to a pass funnel defense against Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. Chase is coming off of a 20-target game. And frankly, while Joe is hurt, while he can't take these deep routes, while he doesn't have time to sit in the pocket, and while they're not rolling him out, I think you can expect a lot of the short route just force feeding Chase for the next few weeks until he's healthy, probably till after their bye. And so if it's a defense that can't stop the pass against one of the best trios between quarterback and two passers in football, and then you're going to be relying on Ryan Tannehill to come back and keep pace with him. They don't have their over-the-top guy in Treylon Burks this week. He's injured. DeAndre Hopkins is actually pretty good. They're still feeding him targets, but he's had an injured ankle for 2 weeks now. And two, he's not going to bust the game open. He's not catching 40, 50-yard passes. You need a Treylon Burks in a game like this actually really does matter. I don't see them being able to keep up with the Bengals if they get a little lead on him. I think that's going to probably be it. They're going to cut Hubbard loose. They're going to be sacking Tannehill. That O-line is in shambles. Give me the Bengals this week.
I got a couple notes on this game. Number one is that Joe Burrow is off the injury report, so allegedly he's healthy. I guess I haven't watched a single Bengals game this entire year, but allegedly he had like some calf support on or whatever, and he doesn't have that anymore. So this could be healthy Joe Burrow. And the other note I have on this game is Mike Vrabel is the most profitable underdog coach in the NFL since he's become a head coach. So that's why I was off this one. The question about Burrow's health and just the Titans being well coached, like that's why. But the Bengals are certainly a better team. They certainly have a better roster, and they should win this game.
Yeah, I think so. I think they will.
All right, next we got the Dolphins going into Buffalo to play the Bills, and I'm getting back on the Bills again. That's 3 out of 4 weeks I've taken the Bills ATS. The Bills are -3 right now, and the over-under in this game is a whopping 53.5. It's by far the highest total of the week. Only 24% of money is on the Bills, and 37% of bets are on the Bills. So not only am I going against the public on this one, but I'm going against the sharps on this one too, right? Because that 13%, that means there's bigger money coming in on the Dolphins. This is a divisional matchup at home for Buffalo, and these divisional matchups are traditionally close games. So, I think the line is probably right. Since Tua has been the starter, the Bills are 6-1 against the Dolphins. They've kind of had his number. In the playoffs last year, when they trotted out, what was the backup quarterback for the Dolphins? Skylar Thompson. Yeah, Skylar Thompson in the Dolphins almost beat the Bills in Buffalo last year in the playoffs. So, that's a little concerning, but it seems like after week 1, the Bills have kind of righted the ship. They've just blown out 2 terrible teams in the Commanders and the Raiders. So this is definitely more of a test. But I'm willing to write off week 1 for Josh Allen against the Jets and just say, you know what, that's what you get with Josh Allen. That's just what he does. He has bad Josh Allen games where he just is an arsonist, and he has good Josh Allen games where he blows out the other team. So I don't think this Miami defense, even though they're Vic Fangio coached and, I like a lot of their scheming, I don't think they're going to be able to, stop the Bills offense like the Jets did. So it's, a matter to me if the Dolphins can keep doing what they have been all year and just be an offensive juggernaut. And when it comes down to it, I just think that the Bills will score a few more points than them. The Patriots held the Dolphins to 25 points in week 2. Sean McDermott is calling the plays now instead of Leslie Frazier. He is a defensive-minded head coach. That's how he got his job. That's how he got his opportunity to lead this team. So I'm not really too concerned about that. They're going to put a hat on Tyreek. I think the Bills are not going to allow Tyreek to just run by them like the Chargers and the Broncos did. The Patriots, again, did a really good job of that, putting Christian Gonzalez on Tyreek. The Bills have Tre'Davious White, and they have 2 good safeties in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. So, I mean,
Jordan Poyer's out this week, by the way.
he is.
He is out
Well,
this week.
it's too late now. I made the slides. It's
It
too
was
late
just
now. I
announced
made the slides.
It was just announced this morning.
Yeah, and I guess my last note on this game is that the Dolphins are at an all-time high in the public eye after dropping 70 on the Broncos. That is a feat very few have done in NFL history. So like the Dolphins were already a public team, and now they're just the most public team of all time. Like everybody loves the Dolphins in this spot, and
Yeah.
it could be a letdown. It could just be one of those games that after an emotional like awesome win against the Broncos, you just come out and get a reality check here. The Bills are certainly not the Broncos. The Bills are certainly leaps and bounds better than the Broncos. I think this is probably the game of the week. I'm actually really excited to watch this game. And yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me. It would not shock me if the Dolphins won this game. That's why I put the Bills in a parlay. So that way, if this loses, whatever, right? And then hopefully I can get the other singles. Right. Yanni, you got any thoughts on this one? You think I'm just insane for picking against the Dolphins here?
No, I mean, we had talked about it, dude. Like, I thought about this one too. I think no Jordan Poyer actually does matter for the, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I mean, this game actually reminds me a lot of what happens in fighting a lot in the UFC or in boxing. You'll have these prospects that come out and they're just lighting people up. They're knocking out people left and right. They look really good. They're the biggest thing in the sport. But then it comes what they call a levels fight, where they have to come into a match where they're fighting someone who's much more established, much more consistent, much more, a grizzled veteran. And I guess the Bills haven't necessarily had the track record of success to call them that, but like multiple playoff wins the last few years. Josh Allen's universally regarded as a top 5 quarterback. And so to me, it's kind of like a prospect taking a levels fight to see where he's at. I don't think we know enough about the Dolphins to just hammer them in this game. And I don't think is a 70-point game really representative of them. It might be. I mean, there are guys who come out and get 10-second knockouts in the UFC and then they're champions for years. It happens. It is possible. I'm curious to see. This is a great levels match for him. We're going to find out whether or not the Dolphins really are one of the best teams in football this week. So I kind of like the bet because it's more or less just saying they don't have a great O-line. They don't have a great defense, and O-line and defense really matter in football. And you can get away with kind of the gimmicky quick stuff for a while or a really solid offensive scheme. That can get you really far. But the trenches matter in football. Playing defense matters in football. So we'll see. Be a really good game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the Dolphins, me picking against them here is not at all a I don't know. I'm not hating on the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins are a very good team. And, like, I'm super bought into Tua. I remember I was one of the early Tua haters, and he totally changed my mind. With what him and Mike McDaniel have been able to do has been amazing. Like, shout out to Mike, dude. I love seeing him succeed.
Yeah.
But
they're awesome.
yeah, I'm not bought into this running game, though. I'm just not. I don't think Raheem Mostert is as good. I think he's playing way over his skis right now. And even though the Bills are giving up the highest yards per carry to opposing teams this year, Mystic Ted is going to predict Raheem Mostert under 12 fantasy points. Let me know in the comments if you think Raheem Mostert is going to get over 12 fantasy points this week. For any of you Raheem Mostert owners out there.
All right. Going back to the Chargers, one more time. We have the Raiders at the Chargers at a 4.5-point spread this week. Again, same thing like I said in the other game. It always makes me feel good when you go and check where the big money is in this game, and 85% of the money is on the Chargers, 78% of the bets. Josh Jacobs only has 2.4 yards per carry this year. It's Jimmy G. Does Jimmy G suck? Was it the Niners system? It's been a big topic of conversation in the NFL. All I know is this year, he looks like he has a noodle arm. He's not moving well. He's getting lit up on a lot of passing plays. The offense just does not look right. I don't know why they got rid of Derek Carr. I don't know why they saw Jimmy as a clear upgrade. I think that was kind of a nutty decision, but it's a decision they made nonetheless. And then Josh Jacobs is, he carried a lot of weight in this offense last year, and he's just not doing it this year. So the way that the game script kind of spells out, even without Mike Williams, is you're going to have Justin Herbert, who, and by the way, the Niners got tore up a little bit for the most part, by Kenny Pickett last week. So you're going to have Justin Herbert, you're going to have Keenan Allen, even Parham Jr. is, pretty good, right? You have Josh Palmer, you have the rookie that they're probably going to get involved. I do not see the Raiders being able to pace them in a shootout game. I really just don't. I was surprised to see the line move toward the Chargers late in the week. That means, a lot of money's coming in on the Raiders. But I'm very comfortable with this bet. I really am. I don't think Jimmy G is going to go in there and get in a shootout with Justin Herbert. I just don't.
Yeah. For the record, I almost came in on the Raiders. I almost did it. I almost came in on the Raiders and Jimmy this week. The line was at 5.5, and it came down to 4.5, and I was out when I heard Jimmy was in. I thought 5.5 was interesting if the Raiders rolled out Aiden O'Connell. But yeah, it's going to be Jimmy, so I'm not interested. Sorry. I think you're right. This is another just roster mismatch. To me, it's just a question of what does Brandon Staley do this time? What does he do this time to keep the game closer than it should be? But if I had to pick a side, I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay. For the Jets Chiefs, sticking with my theme this week of I'm betting against bad quarterbacks, I am taking the Chiefs at 8.5 at the Jets. Another one, 78% of the money's on the Chiefs, 89% of the total bets. So I'm with the public and the whales on this one. I do think Taylor Swift is a needle mover. Travis Kelce, man, he shows up to play when she's in the crowd, and apparently so do her fans. It's the weirdest iteration of NFL hype has been the Taylor Swift hype, but it's real. There's energy behind the team. Patrick Mahomes was waving at her before the game.
For all the Swifties out there, each team gets 4 tries to get a first down, and if they don't get it in 4 tries, it goes to the other team, and they repeat that process. And there's 4 15-minute quarters. Just wanted to throw that out there.
And just so you know, you've watched the Bears and the Jets. It's not the best representation of football. Hang in there. You'll probably see some good games later in the year if you're watching for it. The Chiefs' defense is probably one of the best defenses Mahomes has ever had, if not the best he's ever had. They're really, really good this year. They played a lot of young guys last year, and they made a giant leap forward, it would appear, this season. There's turmoil around the Jets right now, man. Zach Wilson's like a locker room destroying force. The defense is upset because they feel like they're coming through. The running game has been complaining. You're seeing fights with the running game coaches. Garrett Wilson looks angry. The whole thing, you're seeing a report. There was a report last week that Salah might lose the locker room over support of Zach Wilson. The whole thing just feels very messy. It does not feel like they're a team with any level of momentum right now. The Chiefs, every single year, is a Super Bowl window with Patrick Mahomes. We kind of know what they're coming here to do, right? So the question is just, can they beat them by more than 8 points? I think almost certainly they do. I think at 10 points is very reasonable. I would be surprised if the Jets get over 14. If they get 17, I think that would be an impressive offensive output from them for this week. The Chiefs went in and they stuffed Trevor Lawrence. They've been a really solid defensive unit this year. And Patrick Mahomes, the note there about him being a football guy, it has been my opinion for 2 years now, since I watched him destroy the Niners in the Super Bowl. Not destroy him, but on that last 8 minutes, man. I really do believe Patrick Mahomes is the best player that's ever picked up a football. I really think so. I think every single game when I watch him play, it is the highest level of football I've ever seen. Some people compared him to Steph Curry early in his career because he was so different, so creative. I think it's gone way beyond that now. I think he's chasing that number 1 overall crown, the GOAT, whatever you want to call it. And to give him basically to bet on him winning by a touchdown and a field goal against Zach Wilson and the Jets. That's easy. I know they're 27-33, their last 60 against the spread. The public really overvalues them in certain games. I don't think this is one of them. I just don't. I'm actually surprised the spread wasn't bigger. I personally would expect the line to be at 14. So,
yeah. So this line opened at 9.5, I believe. And some sharps started betting the Jets here. I don't know why. Looking at you, Chad Millman, again, Chad Millman. But some people came in on the Jets here, and it moved the line down to 8.5 Chiefs. So you got an even better deal. This Jets team is a disaster right now. It's such a loss for them losing Rodgers the way they did. It just went from such a promising season to just a dumpster fire immediately. I held out some hope that Zach Wilson could maybe I don't know, learn from Rodgers a little bit, like during training camp. But
No,
I'll reference our friend Nick Wright. He said thinking that Zach Wilson would magically get better after 3 years or 3 months of Aaron Rodgers in training camp is like having a chemistry test and putting a book under your pillow the night before the test and hoping that like the information will seep through into your brain. It's just not enough
yeah,
time, and it's not how football works. And Zach just isn't there yet. So
that is exactly what it's like. Yeah.
all that being said, I think the Chiefs cover here. I don't think the 27-33 matters. I think that the Chiefs are a very like public team. The public very much values the Chiefs, but yeah, I don't think it matters in this one. It's just two teams going entirely separate directions. All right, and then last but not least, I'm picking my favorite team, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are 1.5 point favorites, and the over/under is 47.5 points. 84% of the money is on the Seahawks in this one, and 86% of the bets are on the Seahawks this one. The first thing I want to mention about this is this line seems fishy. The Giants have looked like a bottom three team in the league this year. And the Seahawks, even though I am of the opinion they are not a good football team, they just had a win over the Lions, and they just put up 37, I think, against the Panthers. So yeah, it seems like Vegas is trying to entice you to take the Seahawks here. But on this one, I don't care. I'm taking the cheese. I'm like trying to put my thought process into what Vegas could possibly be thinking with this line. And for me, I think they're looking at the Seahawks going to the East Coast to play the Giants, right? So that's a long flight for Seattle. It's a Monday night game, which can get squirrely. And the Seahawks defense has looked absolutely terrible this year. So I think that those are like probably the factors that are kind of going in to this line. But I don't care because I think the Giants are that bad right now. Aside from their like second half miraculous comeback against the Fighting Gannons, the Giants have consistently been one of the worst teams in football this year. I don't think they do anything well. I don't think they play defense well. I don't think they play offense well, especially not without Saquon Barkley or a half healthy Saquon Barkley. I think they have the best kicker in the game, but that's pretty much all I think they do well. So even though like I don't think the Seahawks are good, I still think they're overrated. I still think that like this is a team that just the public loves, and they're in love with the Geno Smith story, but he's not that good. Even with that, I think the Giants are bad enough that they're going to win by 2 points. They can almost guarantee it. And I don't like, trust me, if there was any way I could not pick the Seahawks here, I wouldn't do it. But I really think this is going to be an easy one. Saquon does look like he'll be back this week, which is important. Like he's their best offensive player by far. He's the best player on the team. Imagine being an organization and signing Daniel Jones to a long-term 5-year contract and tagging Saquon Barkley to the point that he hates your team and wants to leave. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be my franchise. But yeah, he's playing through a high ankle, and historically when he's played through high ankles, he has not been as dominant. I believe it was the year after he tore his ACL. I think it was like his second year in the league. He was like the number 2 overall fantasy pick. He tore his ACL against the Bears week 2. He missed that entire season. He came back the next year. He got an ankle sprain like immediately, and then he was like a 2 to 3, maybe 5 point fantasy game guy. And people were asking, is Saquon still dominant? Like, is he still like, what did the Giants like make a bad pick picking him at the second overall? So yeah, he's the type of back who his athleticism, his horizontal cuts, his speed, a lot of that falls on his ankles, and this could be tough for him. I mean, the Seahawks have a terrible run defense. The Seahawks are really not good at defense, so I think if you have Saquon in a fantasy lineup, I'd still roll him out there. You got to play a talent like that, but I think that if he was fully healthy, I could see the line being where it is. But because he's not going to be fully healthy, I don't know. I just think this is botched pricing by Vegas, and I'm just gonna take it. I could look like an idiot here, but the smart part about betting the Seahawks for me in this one is I hate them. I'm a Niners fan, and I want them to lose the game anyways. So if they win, I win my bet, and if they lose, it's good for the Niners. So either way, I walk out of here a winner. And it's in a parlay
Yeah.
too. So if the Bills lose, I can just automatically root against the Seahawks. So that's my thought
Yeah.
process. You got anything on this one, Yanni? I'm shocked you didn't take this because you love the Seahawks a lot more than me.
I do. Hey man, they beat the Lions. The Lions are a legit team. To me, for what I guess you shouldn't think like it's not logical, right? It felt like a trap game. It just does. I don't know why. It feels like a game that it's going to be this weird. How did Daniel Jones win a game? I don't know. I don't. That's not a rational. I don't have good rational arguments for it. I just did not like the. I don't know. Doesn't feel right. So I didn't touch it.
Yeah, I remember I
Um,
said this last week to you about the Rams and Bengals, and the Bengals is probably the right side there, and the Rams got the last second push for you. So I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, and I remember week 1 too. I was on the Bengals. I said how is this handicapped the way that it is, and I was super dead wrong. So I don't know. Like all of the logical signs to me point to a Seahawks win, but you never know. Like when you're gambling, like you always want to keep an eye out for these lines that seem weird, right? And this is a
Yep.
weird one, but I'm putting my neck out there, so we'll see.
Yep.
But anyways, that's gonna do it for us. If you made it through the video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you live in a gambling state and bet on any of these games we've suggested, let us know when we win you a bunch of money because we are good gamblers. We're both over 500, and yeah, we give out winners. I've been watching a lot of gambling content lately, and I gotta say, I think we're better than the Sharps already, Yanni. We've been doing this for a month now, but I already think we're more qualified than them. You know?
More qualified, I don't know, but I do think a lot of the big names have been taking beatings this year, man. So like, I think it's been a really hard year to bet. I'm actually really proud of the work we put in.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of L's this year. So
Right.
yeah, proud of the work we're doing.
All right, we will catch you guys next week for the head coach episode, week 5.
Thanks, guys. Good luck this weekend.